Chapter 1. 3 in the morning. A draft of cold Chicago air slipped through the half-open window, chilling Cole Foster's face. He stared at his iPhone screen, at the iMessage chat with his wife, Evelyn. The last message was his, sent an hour ago. Home yet? No reply. A green bubble, undelivered. Cole tried calling her again, but the call went straight to voicemail, greeted by the same cold, automated female voice. The person you're trying to reach is unavailable. The knot in his stomach tightened. The grandfather clock in the living room ticked on, each second a mockery of his rising anxiety. This afternoon, Evelyn had spent an hour getting ready, all excited for a college reunion. It's just old friends, people I haven't seen since graduation. Don't worry, she'd said, her smile bright, a genuine spark in her eyes he hadn't seen in a long time. He hadn't thought much of it then. He just told her not to drink too much and to get home early. But it was now 3 a.m. A reunion? What kind of reunion lasts this long? Cole ran a hand through his hair, his mind racing through a dozen worst-case scenarios. Forcing himself to stay calm, he scrolled through his contacts and found a number he almost never called willingly. His mother-in-law, Sharon Hayes. The phone rang for a long time before she picked up, her voice thick with sleep and annoyance. Cole, it's the middle of the night. What's wrong? Sharon, is Evelyn with you? Cole's voice was hoarse. With me? Isn't she with you? She called me this afternoon, said she was going to some reunion. Sharon's voice sharpened, suddenly alert. She never came home. Her phone's off. There was a pause on the other end. Then Sharon's voice shot up an octave. Off. That girl. What reunion did she tell you about? Where was it? Just a college reunion. She didn't say where. And you call yourself a husband? You don't even know where your own wife is. Sharon's tone turned venomous. I bet she's with that Ryan Vance. Ryan Vance? The name hit Cole like a punch to the gut. He remembered the name. He was the president of Evelyn's class in college, and supposedly had a huge crush on her back in the day. Cole had seen a picture of him once in one of Evelyn's old photo albums. A polished-looking guy with thin, gold-rimmed glasses. You know Ryan? Of course, I know him. He was always buzzing around Evie like a fly. He added her on Facebook a while back, always liking her posts, leaving little comments. I told you to keep an eye on that, but did you listen? Sharon's words were like machine gun fire. I knew something was up. Evie's been smiling at her phone all the time lately. When I asked, she'd just say she was watching funny videos. What kind of video makes a person that happy? Cole's blood ran cold. The marriage he thought was a fortress had cracks he never knew existed. Sharon, do you have any idea where they might be? How should I know? She snapped. You need to find her now. If anything happens to my daughter, I'll hold you responsible. After he hung up, the room started to spin. Find her? Where was he supposed to look? The city was massive. He was running around like a chicken with his head cut off. Then it hit him. Evelyn had a best friend from college, Jessica. He scrambled to find her number and called. Jessica's voice was also heavy with sleep. Hello, Cole. Are you looking for Evie? Isn't she at the reunion? Jessica, do you know the address? Her phone is off, and I can't find her. The address. Jessica paused for a second. It's at the Sovereign Grand Hotel downtown. Ryan organized it. He's doing really well for himself. Said he booked a huge suite for everyone to catch up properly. The Sovereign Grand Hotel. Cole's vision went red. Are they planning on spending the night there? He practically spat the words out. Oh, don't get the wrong idea, Jessica said quickly, sensing the shift in his tone. Ryan just said everyone would probably be drinking and it wouldn't be safe to drive. So he got everyone rooms at the hotel just to be safe. Just to be safe? A wave of hot rage washed over him. He hung up, grabbed his car keys, and bolted out the door. He floored it, the empty streets of the early morning a blur. 40 minutes later, he was standing in the opulent lobby of the Sovereign Grand. He marched straight to the front desk and gave them Evelyn's name. I'm sorry, sir, but we can't give out guest information, the concierge said politely. Cole took a deep breath, pulled out his phone, and called his mother-in-law, putting her on speaker. Sharon, I'm at the Sovereign Grand. The front desk won't give me her room number. You talk to them. Sharon's voice exploded from the phone like a thunderclap. Is my daughter, Evelyn Hayes, a guest at your hotel? My son-in-law is standing right there. If you try to hide anything, I'm calling the police right now and reporting you for harboring a missing person. The young woman behind the counter, startled, quickly typed on her keyboard. I found her. Ms. Hayes is in room 1808. 1808. Cole turned and headed for the elevators. Just then, Sharon herself burst out of a taxi and stormed into the lobby. Cole, wait for me. Apparently, she hadn't been able to rest and had followed him. They made eye contact, their expressions a shared mix of fury and dread. The elevator ride felt like an eternity, each ascending number a fresh twist of the knife. Ding! The doors opened. Room 1808 was at the end of the hall. They walked quickly, their hearts pounding against their ribs. Cole raised his hand to knock, but it was shaking too badly. Sharon shoved him aside and began hammering on the door with all her might. Evelyn, open this door. I know you're in there. Open up right now. Bang, bang, bang. The sound echoed through the silent hallway. There was no response from inside. Enraged, Sharon started screaming as she pounded the door. Evelyn, you shameless little tramp. You think you can hide? Get out here. Cole leaned against the wall, feeling his strength drain away. Just then, the door to the adjacent room, 1806, cracked open. A man poked his head out, annoyed. What the hell is all the noise? People are trying to sleep. Cole recognized him from one of Evelyn's reunion photos on Facebook. His name was Todd. Is Evelyn in there? Cole asked, his voice raspy. Todd froze, his eyes darting away. I don't know. The party ended hours ago. If it ended, why didn't she come home? Maybe she had too much to drink. Sharon didn't care. She pointed a finger right in Todd's face. You're all a bunch of enablers. Did you put my daughter up to this? Where's Ryan? Where's that Ryan Vance? Ryan. He's in 1808 too? Todd mumbled, his voice barely a whisper. The confession landed like a sledgehammer. Sharon trembled with rage, turning back to the door with renewed fury. Open the door. You two degenerates. If you don't open this door, I'll break it down myself. Perhaps the commotion was finally too much to ignore. The lock clicked. The door opened a crack. It was Ryan. He was wearing a silk hotel robe, open at the collar. His hair was a mess, and his face was a mask of feigned irritation and barely concealed panic. Sharon? Cole? What are you guys doing here? He tried to sound calm, but he couldn't meet their eyes. Sharon shoved him aside and burst into the room. Cole followed, his feet as heavy as lead. The suite's living room was a disaster, empty bottles scattered everywhere. The bedroom door was closed. Sharon didn't hesitate. She stormed over and threw it open. The room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of the city outside. On the bed, a figure wrapped in the sheets shot upright at the sound. It was Evelyn. She was also wearing a hotel bathrobe, her hair disheveled, her face a mixture of a hangover's confusion and the shock of being woken up so violently. When she saw her mother and her husband standing in the doorway, she froze. All the color drained from her beautiful face. Chapter 2. The air in the room turned to ice. For people, for corners of a twisted, tragic tableau. Evelyn's lips parted, but no sound came out. She clutched the robe tighter, her eyes wide with a cornered animal's shock and panic. What are you doing here? Her voice was a dry, trembling whisper, a shadow of its usual confident tone. Sharon shook with a fury so intense she couldn't speak. Her lips trembled as she pointed a finger at her daughter. Finally, she raised her hand and brought it down in a vicious slap. Crack! The sharp sound echoed in the silent room. 5 red fingerprints bloomed on Evelyn's pale cheek. She was stunned, her hand flying to her face as she stared at her mother in disbelief. Mom, you hit me? I'll do more than that. You shameless girl. Sharon's voice was a raw, wounded cry. You've disgraced our entire family. She lunged forward, grabbing and hitting at Evelyn like a woman possessed. You're married. You have a husband. How could you spend the night in a place like this with another man? I didn't. Evelyn shrieked, try to fend off the blows. It's not what you think. Not what we think. Cole, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was terrifyingly calm, as still and dark as a deep lake with a deadly undertow. He walked slowly into the bedroom. His gaze swept over the rumpled bed, over the matching bathrobes on Evelyn and Ryan, and finally came to rest on the nightstand. 2 empty wine glasses sat there. Next to them was a small, open cardboard box. Trojan. The iconic logo burned itself onto his retinas like a branding iron. In that single instant, his entire world came crashing down. Every ounce of reason, every shred of restraint turned to ash. Not what we think, he repeated, a bitter, self-loathing smile twisting his lips. Then what is it, Evelyn? Tell me, what is it? Evelyn followed his gaze and saw the box. The blood drained from her face, leaving it a ghostly white. No, that's not. Cole, please, let me explain. She stammered, scrambling to get out of bed. Explain. Cole let out a hollow laugh, filled with despair. Explain that you drank too much and got swept up in a moment, or that you were just in here having a friendly chat under the covers. That's enough. Ryan suddenly rushed forward, planting himself between Cole and Evelyn, playing the role of protector. He glared at Cole. Don't you dare talk to her like that, Foster. You have no right. Do you have any idea how you've been treating her? His intervention was like throwing gasoline on a bonfire. Cole's bloodshot eyes locked onto him. How I treat her is my family's business. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm her friend, and I can't stand by and watch her be miserable. Ryan declared, as if he were some kind of hero. You're always at work. When was the last time you actually paid attention to her? You weren't there when she was sick. You didn't notice when she was down. What have you ever given her besides money? The words were daggers, each one hitting a nerve. He was busy. He worked himself to the bone to provide for their family, to give Evelyn the life he thought she deserved. He thought financial security was the ultimate expression of his love. And now, here was another man, in a hotel room with his wife, accusing him of not caring enough. The irony was crushing. So, you decided to care for her? Cole's voice was ice. Care for her all the way into a hotel bed. You. Ryan's face went pale. You shut your mouth. Sharon spun on Ryan, a lioness defending her territory, however compromised. You home-wrecking piece of trash. Get out. Get out of here right now. Sharon, it's not what it looks like. Nothing happened between Evie and me, Ryan pleaded. Nothing happened. Sharon sneered. A man and a woman, alone in a room, wearing bathrobes with that on the nightstand, and you're telling me nothing happened? She was so furious she could barely speak, clutching her chest and gasping for air. Mom, Evelyn cried, reaching for her, but Sharon slapped her hand away. Don't touch me. I don't have a daughter like you. Evelyn's hand froze in midair. The tears she'd been holding back finally broke free, streaming down her face. She turned to Cole, her eyes begging for a lifeline. Cole, believe me, nothing happened. I drank too much last night, and Ryan was just looking after me. Looking after you? Cole pointed a trembling finger at the damning box. With this? Is this how you look after someone? Evelyn's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She had no idea how that box got there. All she remembered was Ryan constantly toasting her at the reunion, bringing up old inside jokes from college. She hadn't felt that happy, that carefree, in years. Before she knew it, she was drunk. The rest was a blur of fragmented memories. She thought she got sick. Ryan held her up, saying he'd take her to her room to rest. And after that, nothing. Complete blackness until she woke up in this nightmare. Looking into Cole's eyes, filled with a depth of disappointment she'd never seen before, Evelyn felt an invisible hand squeeze her heart until it hurt to breathe. She knew it was over. No explanation, no matter how true, could stand up against the scene in front of them. Cole didn't look at her again. He didn't look at Ryan. He slowly turned his back and walked out of the suffocating room, his posture rigid with a final, heartbreaking resolve. Cole! Evelyn screamed, chasing after him in a blind panic. Barefoot and wearing only the thin hotel robe, she ran into the hallway. Cole, wait. Please, just let me explain. He stopped at the elevator, but didn't turn around. Evelyn, he said, his voice devoid of any emotion. Let's get a divorce. With that, he pressed the down button and stepped inside without a backward glance. The doors slid shut, sealing off her tear-streaked face. Sealing off 7 years of marriage. Evelyn collapsed onto the cold hallway floor, a desperate sob escaping her lips. Sharon rushed out and saw her daughter's pathetic state, a storm of pity and rage on her face. She yanked Evelyn up from the floor. Crying? What good is crying now? You're sorry now? Where was that last night? Mom, I swear I didn't. Be quiet. Sharon shot her a glare, then turned her fury on Ryan, who was standing guiltily in the doorway. And you, this isn't over. You just wait. She dragged the devastated Evelyn toward the other elevator. The hallway was empty except for Ryan. He watched them leave, the panicked, innocent look on his face slowly melting away. In its place, a faint, triumphant smile emerged. He walked back to the nightstand, picked up the empty Trojan box, and slipped it into his pocket. Everything was going according to plan. Chapter 3. Dawn was breaking, painting the Chicago skyline in shades of gray. Cole drove aimlessly, the city rushing past his windows like a silent film. His mind was a total blank, yet at the same time a chaotic storm of images. Evelyn in her wedding dress, walking toward him. The two of them painting the walls in their first condo together. Her, curled up against him, laughing about how she wanted to have a daughter with his eyes. And then, Evelyn in a hotel bed, wearing a bathrobe, her face a mask of panic. The pain was a physical thing, a knife twisting in his chest. He couldn't understand how it had come to this. Was 7 years of love really that fragile? His phone buzzed, startling him. It was Leo, his business partner. Cole, where are you? The final meeting with Apex Holdings is today. You're the main event. You can't miss this. Cole had completely forgotten. He'd been chasing this project for 6 months, pulling countless all-nighters. It was supposed to be a major milestone for their company, Forge Tech. If they landed this contract, the company would double in size overnight. Right now, he couldn't care less. Leo, I'm not feeling well today. You start without me. Stall them if you can. I'll try to get there later. His voice was a gravelly whisper. Not well? What's wrong with your voice? Did something happen? Leo asked, concerned. Nothing, Cole lied. I'll talk to you later. He hung up and pulled the car over, slumping against the headrest and closing his eyes. He just needed a moment of silence. He didn't know how long he sat there before a knock on the window startled him. He opened his eyes to a familiar face. It was his childhood friend, Mark Rockwell. Mark opened the door and slid into the passenger seat, handing him a bottle of water. You call me at the crack of dawn, just so I can come watch you stare into space. Cole took the water without a word, twisting the cap and taking a long drink. Mark studied his bloodshot eyes and exhausted face. Fight with Evelyn? A bitter laugh escaped Cole's lips. I wish it was just a fight. He told Mark everything, the whole sordid story from the night before. When he finished, Mark was silent for a long time. He just lit a cigarette and smoked, filling the car with a hazy cloud. So what are you going to do? Mark finally asked. Divorce, Cole said without a shred of hesitation. You sure? You're not going to try to get her side of the story? What story is there to get? Cole's voice was weary but resolute. I caught her, Mark, in the act. My own mother-in-law was there. How am I supposed to trust anything she says now? The Trojan box was a splinter of poison lodged deep in his soul. It was the ultimate mark of shame on a man's pride. Mark sighed and clapped him on the shoulder. All right, whatever you decide, I've got your back. But you can't blow off the company. If this Apex deal falls through, the last 6 months of our lives were for nothing. The mention of work brought a flicker of light back into Cole's eyes. Forge Tech was the one thing he had built, the only thing he could hold on to now. I know, he said, stubbing out his cigarette. Take me to the office. The atmosphere in the Apex Holdings conference room was tense. Cole was late. He had changed his clothes and splashed cold water on his face, trying to look presentable, but the dark circles under his red-rimmed eyes told a different story. The head of the Apex team, a man in his 40s named Mr. Wallace, frowned slightly when he saw him. Mr. Foster, you don't look so good. My apologies, Mr. Wallace. A family emergency came up, Cole said, forcing a smile. A young man has to remember career is important, but so is family, Mr. Wallace said cryptically. The meeting began. Cole tried to focus, to present the final proposal with energy. But his mind kept betraying him, flashing images of Evelyn's face. His speech became rushed, his logic muddled. Leo was trying to signal him from across the table, but it was like he was in a fog. Finally, he stumbled on a key financial projection. Mr. Wallace immediately cut him off. Mr. Foster, that number doesn't seem to match the report you sent us last week. Cole froze, fumbling with his papers. He saw the mistake. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. I'm sorry, Mr. Wallace. That was a slip of the tongue. Mr. Foster. Mr. Wallace's face hardened as he closed his portfolio. I admit, your proposal is excellent. But a partnership is built on more than just a good plan. It's built on the professionalism and dedication of the partners. And frankly, your condition today does not inspire my confidence that your team can execute this project effectively. Mr. Wallace, please, let me explain. Cole was just, Leo started, trying to salvage the situation. There's no need, Mr. Wallace said, standing and adjusting his suit jacket. Apex Holdings only partners with the best. It appears we need to reevaluate this collaboration. With that, he and his team walked out of the room. Leo slumped into his chair, defeated. Cole stood there, stunned, as if struck by lightning. It was over. 6 months of work gone. His family and his career had collapsed in the span of a single night. He felt like a complete joke, a failure. He walked back to his office in a daze. His phone showed dozens of missed calls from Evelyn and Sharon. There were also a few frantic texts from Evelyn. Cole, where are you? Can we please talk? It's really not what you think, just listen to me. I'm begging you. Please just answer your phone. The words on the screen were like acid. Explain? What was there left to explain? He was about to turn his phone off when Sharon called again. He hesitated, then answered. Cole, what is the meaning of this? You're avoiding us. Sharon's voice was as sharp as ever. Let me tell you something. If you don't give Evelyn a proper explanation for this isn't over. An explanation? Cole laughed, a cold, empty sound. Sharon, what kind of explanation do you want? Should I be explaining myself to you? Or should she be explaining herself to me? Don't you forget the down payment on that condo you live in? We paid for that. That BMW you drive? We paid for that. And the seed money for your company? I had my friend at the bank push that loan through for you. Now you've made a little money. You think you could just kick our EV to the curb? Not a chance. Sharon's words were like a bucket of ice water dumped over his head, right? He'd almost forgotten. When they got married, he had nothing. The down payment on their Lincoln Park condo came from his in-laws. The car was a wedding gift from Evelyn's parents. The first major investment in his company was a loan secured by his father-in-law's connections. He had worked his ass off all these years precisely to escape the label of a man who'd married into money. He wanted to give Evelyn a good life, to finally stand tall in front of her parents. He gave almost every dollar he earned to her. He thought he had proven himself. But in the end, in his mother-in-law's eyes, he was still just the poor kid they had propped up. And now, after being cheated on, his cheater's mother was calling to threaten him with his own financial history, demanding he provide an explanation. The absurdity was suffocating. The humiliation and rage boiled over. And so, his voice was arctic. So, I'm just supposed to take it? Because I used your family's money, your daughter gets to cheat on me, and I'm supposed to come home and thank her for the privilege? What nonsense are you talking? Sharon was speechless. Nonsense. Cole sneered. Sharon, I'll call you Mom one last time. The house, the car, the company, I will have it all calculated. I will pay you back every single cent, and then some. After that, we are even. As for Evelyn, tell her to meet me tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock at the county courthouse. He hung up and immediately blocked both Sharon's and Evelyn's numbers. The world went silent. He leaned back in his chair, watching the traffic flow on the street below, and for the first time in his life, felt the crushing weight of utter despair. Chapter 4. The next morning, at 8:50 a.m., in front of the Cook County Courthouse, Cole stood on the steps in a black trench coat, his face a stony mask as he watched people come and go. A brisk autumn wind rustled the fallen leaves, adding to the chill in the air. He hadn't slept a wink. His eyes were webbed with red, and a dark stubble shadowed his jaw. He looked haggard and broken. At exactly 9, a white BMW pulled up to the curb. Evelyn and Sharon got out. Evelyn wore a beige trench coat, her long hair hanging limp. Her normally vibrant face was pale and drawn, her eyes red and swollen from a night of crying. When she saw Cole, she stopped, her gaze filled with pain and desperation. Sharon, however, looked furious. She marched up to Cole and immediately launched her attack. Cole, what is the meaning of this? Do you have to be so cruel? What did Evelyn do that was so wrong you drag her through this? Even now, she was trying to deny it. Cole looked at her and found it almost funny. You really don't know what she did wrong. No, I don't. Sharon's voice rose, attracting stares from passersby. All I know is my daughter had too much to drink. Her classmate took her to a hotel to sleep it off, and you completely overreacted. Are you that insecure? Don't you have any trust in her? Trust? Cole laughed at the absurdity. Sharon, a man and a woman, in bathrobes, alone in a hotel room with an open box of Trojans on the nightstand. Is that what you call trust? What about it? Maybe the hotel provides those. Sharon retorted weakly. What five-star hotel leaves an open box of condoms on the nightstand? Cole's single question shut her down completely. Sharon's face flushed, and she was left sputtering. Evelyn walked over and gently pulled on her mother's arm. She looked at Cole, her voice raspy. Cole, can we please talk? Alone. Cole looked at her tear-stained face, but felt nothing. His heart was a desert. There's nothing left to talk about, Evelyn. Let's go inside. The sooner we get this over with, the better for everyone. His tone was cold and distant, as if he were speaking to a stranger. Evelyn flinched, and fresh tears welled in her eyes. Just because of one night, you're going to throw away 7 years of marriage? 7 years, Cole. Does none of that mean anything to you anymore? I haven't forgotten, Cole said, his gaze drifting to the BMW parked at the curb. I remember that you bought this car. I remember that your family paid the down payment on our condo. And I remember that your father helped me get the startup loan for my company. I remember everything. Perfectly. With every word he spoke, Evelyn's face grew paler. And that's why I'm going to pay it all back. Cole pulled a folder from his briefcase and held it out to her. This is the separation agreement. I've already signed it. The condo is yours. The car is yours. The company is something I've built over the past few years, so I will have it valued, and I will pay you back double your family's initial investment in cash. I'm walking away with nothing. Evelyn stared at the folder, the words divorce agreement searing her eyes. She didn't take it, just shook her head frantically. I don't want it. Cole, I don't want any of this. I just want you. I want our family. Family. Cole's laugh was filled with sorrow. Evelyn, the moment you decided not to come home, the moment I saw you in that hotel room with him, we stopped being a family. His words were a blade, severing her last shred of hope. Sharon, listening nearby, looked increasingly agitated. Double the investment back? Walking away with nothing? The kid was serious. She had assumed her financial leverage gave her control, but he was calling her bluff. Don't get cocky, Cole. Sharon snapped. You think you're so great now that you have a little money? Without our family, you'd still be a nobody. Mom, Evelyn cried, horrified that her mother would say such things at a time like this. Cole acted as if he hadn't heard Sharon's insults. He just looked at Evelyn, his expression unreadable. Sign it. It's the last bit of dignity I can offer you. Without another word, he turned and walked into the courthouse. Evelyn stood frozen, a cold dread seeping into her bones. Watching his resolute back, she knew it was truly over. Sharon started to curse again, but Evelyn stopped her. Mom, please. Stop, she said, her voice hollow. Let's go inside. Sharon looked at her daughter, frustrated. You just gonna let him win? What else is there to do? Evelyn gave a broken smile. Mom, I was wrong. She finally said it. Whether or not anything physical had happened with Ryan, she had stayed out all night, alone with another man in a hotel room. That was the mistake. She had single-handedly destroyed her own marriage. Inside, the county clerk's office was bleak and impersonal. They had seen it all before. Photos, forms, signatures, fingerprints. Through it all, Cole and Evelyn didn't exchange a single word. When the clerk handed them their official divorce decrees, Evelyn's hand was shaking so badly she could barely hold the pen. Walking out of the courthouse, the sky seemed to have grown darker. Evelyn stared at the decree in her hand. It felt like a branding iron. 7 years of marriage, gone in a single morning. Cole, she called out, summoning the last of her courage. He stopped and turned back to her. I'm sorry, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. Cole was silent for a moment, then gave a slight nod. Take care of yourself. He turned, walked to the curb, and hailed a cab without a backward glance. The car pulled into traffic and vanished around the corner. Evelyn stood on the sidewalk, watching the spot where the cab had disappeared. Finally, she sank to her knees and began to sob, her whole body shaking with grief. Sharon came over and put an arm around her. What are you crying for? It's over. A man like that isn't worth it. We'll find you someone better. Evelyn didn't answer. She just cried until she had no tears left, knowing she had just lost the one person in the world who had loved her most. And she had been the one to push him away. In the back of the cab, Cole watched the city blur past. He took out his phone and called Leo. Leo, I need you to do something for me. Anything. What is it? Contact Mr. Wallace at Apex. Tell him I have a new proposal and I need to speak with him again. But after his reaction yesterday, I don't think he'll take the meeting. You don't know until you try, Cole said. A new, hard-edged determination flickered in his eyes. Before, he had worked so hard for his family, for Evelyn. Now his family was gone. All he had left was work. Leo paused on the other end. Okay, I'll try. But are you all right? I'm fine, Cole said, his voice flat. I've never been better. He hung up and gave the driver his office address. When Cole walked back into Forge Tech, every employee could feel the icy new aura around him. This was not the easygoing boss they knew. His eyes were sharp as knives, his face an emotionless mask. Leo met him at his office door, his own face etched with worry. So, it's done. 2 words. They hit Leo like a punch. You actually did it? Yeah, Cole said, offering no further explanation as he walked into his office. Let me know as soon as you hear from Apex. He shut the door and sat down at his computer, immediately starting to tear apart the proposal and rebuild it from scratch. He was going to take back what he had lost yesterday. Meanwhile, Evelyn returned to an empty condo. The place that had once been filled with laughter now felt cavernously silent. Cole's slippers were still by the door. His shirt from the day before was still in the laundry hamper. Traces of him were everywhere, but he was never coming back. She collapsed onto the sofa, crying silently. Sharon came in, her patience worn thin. Crying, that's all you do. You feel bad now? Where was this regret 2 days ago? Mom, please stop. Why should I stop? Sharon sat next to her. I told you from the beginning, Cole Foster was an ungrateful snake. We helped him so much, and the second he gets a little money, he shows his true colors. Evelyn shook her head, looking at her mother through her tears. No, Mom, it wasn't his fault. It was my fault. What was your fault? You had a few too many drinks with an old friend. Is that a reason to destroy a marriage? Sharon was still making excuses for her. Just then, Evelyn's phone rang. It was Ryan. The name made her stomach churn. She immediately declined the call, but he was persistent, calling again and again. Sharon snatched the phone, answered it, and put on speaker. Hello? Evie, are you okay? Your mom didn't give you too hard a time, did she? Ryan's concerned voice filled the room. Ryan. Sharon's voice was like ice. You have the nerve to call here? Ryan paused, then adopted a remorseful tone. Sharon, I am so sorry. It's all my fault. I never thought it would turn out like this. I was just trying to look after Evie. I had no idea it would cause such a huge misunderstanding. Misunderstanding, Sharon sneered. Don't play innocent with me. Let me ask you, that thing in my daughter's room. Did you put it there? What thing, Sharon? Ryan stammered. Don't play dumb with me. The condoms. Sharon spat the word out. There was a moment of silence. Sharon, you've really got it all wrong, Ryan said, his voice dripping with sincerity. That was mine, for my own use. You know, I'm still single, and sometimes a man has needs. I carry one with me, just in case. It must have fallen out of my pocket. I swear it had nothing to do with Evie. The explanation was almost perfect. It exonerated him completely while subtly painting him as a responsible, if lonely, bachelor. But Sharon had been around the block. The more he tried to explain, the more she suspected something was off. Is that so? She said, her voice full of disbelief. Then tell me, just how much did my daughter drink that she was so wasted she couldn't even make it home? Evie, she was in a bad mood yesterday. She had a fight with Cole, said he never understands her. Ryan began to skillfully shift the blame, slinging mud at Cole. Enough. Evelyn, who had been silent, finally exploded. She grabbed the phone and screamed into it. Shut up, Ryan. We didn't have a fight. What did I ever tell you that Cole doesn't understand me? Evie, listen to me, Ryan. My marriage is over because of my own mistakes, not his. And I want you to stay out of my life forever. She slammed the end call button and immediately blocked his number. Having done that, she collapsed back onto the sofa, completely spent. Sharon looked at her daughter, her expression complicated. It was starting to click. This whole thing was starting to smell like a setup. And her daughter had been the fool who walked right into the trap. At 3 in the afternoon, Cole's office phone rang. It was Leo. "Cole, Mr. Wallace from Apex. He agreed to see you. When? Now. But he's only giving you 10 minutes. In a coffee shop downstairs from their office." "That's enough." Cole closed his laptop, picked up the revised proposal he'd been working on all day, and stood up. His eyes were cold and sharp. 10 minutes later, he was sitting across from Mr. Wallace. Wallace stirred his coffee, not even bothering to look up. "Mr. Foster, I'm a busy man. If you're just here to apologize for yesterday, you can save your breath." Cole didn't apologize. He slid the new proposal across the table. "Mr. Wallace, I'm not here to apologize. I'm here to make you more money." Wallace's hand paused. He finally looked up, really looking at Cole for the first time. The young man in front of him was a completely different person from the one he'd seen yesterday. Yesterday's Cole was a defeated wreck. Today's Cole had the eyes of a predator, filled with ambition and an unnerving focus. "Oh," Wallace said, intrigued. "I am listening. In this new proposal, I've revised our profit margin. I've cut it by another 5%. That 5% goes directly to Apex." Wallace's eyes widened slightly. For a project of this scale, 5% was a significant amount of money. "Mr. Foster, you'd be operating at a loss," Wallace said calmly. "Not a loss," Cole replied, a slight smile touching his lips. "I lose money on this deal, but I earn the trust of Apex Holdings, and I earn the opportunity to work with you, Mr. Wallace. In the long run, I believe that's a winning investment." Wallace looked at him, speechless for a moment. This kid had guts. Yesterday, Wallace was still hesitant. "What exactly happened?" "I got divorced," Cole said, his tone as casual as if he were discussing the weather. Wallace was taken aback. "A personal matter almost cost both our companies a major opportunity. That was my failure," Cole continued, his gaze intense. "But now, I have nothing left to distract me. From this day forward, the only thing in my life is my work. So, Mr. Wallace, the man you're sitting across from now is a partner who is willing to bet his entire future on his work. Do you still think I can't be trusted?" His words hung in the air, heavy with conviction. Mr. Wallace looked into his unwavering eyes and finally broke into a smile. He extended his hand. "Mr. Foster, it's a pleasure to do business with you." Chapter 5. A pleasure to do business with you. Cole shook Mr. Wallace's hand, his grip firm. A deal that had been dead in the water was suddenly, impossibly, alive again. Walking out of the coffee shop, he was met with the afternoon sun. He looked up at the sky and let out a long, slow breath. There was no joy, only a placid emptiness. This was just the beginning. He was going to rebuild himself, bigger and stronger, until the humiliation of the past was nothing but a distant memory. Back at the office, Leo was pacing anxiously. Seeing Cole, he rushed over. "Well, did it work?" Cole nodded. "We're back on." Leo slapped his thigh in excitement. "I knew you could do it. How did you convince that old fox?" Cole just handed him the revised proposal. Leo's eyes went wide as he read it. "Are you insane? You gave them another 5 points? We're basically doing this project for free." "We're doing it for free now," Cole corrected, his gaze fixed on a distant horizon. "Leo, we don't just want this one project. We want Apex Holdings as a long-term client." Leo paused, and the realization dawned on him. Apex was a giant in the industry. A successful partnership with them was a golden ticket into the big leagues. "You son of a gun," Leo pointed at him, a grin spreading across his face. "Okay, you're ruthless. I'm impressed. The project kicks off tomorrow. I need you on top of it. Put our best people on it. This is a must-win, Leo. Failure is not an option," Cole said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "You got it." In the weeks that followed, Cole became a machine. He practically lived at the office, surviving on 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. He was relentless, a tireless engine driving the company forward. His employees were a little intimidated by this new version of their boss, but they were also inspired. Under Cole's leadership, Forge Tech's efficiency skyrocketed. The Apex project proceeded flawlessly. Mr. Wallace was beyond impressed, frequently praising their professionalism and even mentioning that Forge Tech would be their first call for future projects. But professional success was a hollow victory. In the quiet of the late-night hours, the loneliness and pain would wash over him. He'd find himself thinking of Evelyn, of the life they once had. And each time, he would bury himself deeper in his work, using it as an anesthetic. One night, after finishing the last of his paperwork around 2 a.m., he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his throbbing temples. His phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Cole, it's Jessica. Evie, she's in the hospital." Cole's heart seized. In the hospital? His first instinct was to call, his thumb hovering over the number. But after a long moment, he put the phone down. They were divorced. Whatever happened to her was no longer his concern. That's what he told himself. But the sharp, twisting pain in his chest told a different story. He turned off his phone and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window, looking out at the sprawling city lights. A million windows, and not a single one was his home anymore. At Chicago General Hospital, in a private room, Evelyn lay on the bed, her face as white as the sheets. Days of crying and not eating had led to acute gastritis and severe malnutrition. She had collapsed at home. Luckily, Sharon had found her in time. Sharon sat by the bed, peeling an apple and sighing. "I don't know why you're doing this to yourself. Is he really worth destroying your health over?" Evelyn didn't answer, just stared blankly at the ceiling. Her mind was filled with one person, Cole. Every text, every call had gone unanswered. She knew, with devastating certainty, that he was done with her. "Mom, I want to see him," Evelyn whispered, her voice hoarse. "See him for what? So he can laugh at you like this?" Sharon snapped. I want to apologize to him again. What is there to be sorry for? If you ask me, this whole mess is Ryan Vance's fault. None of this would have happened if he hadn't gotten you drunk and taken you to that hotel." The mention of Ryan reignited Sharon's fury. After that day, the story hadn't sat right with her. She had a private investigator look into Ryan. What she found was shocking. On the surface, he was a successful professional. In reality, he was drowning in debt from a series of bad investments. The class reunion, the five-star hotel suite, it was all a facade. His motive for getting close to Evelyn was simple. He was after her family's money and, more importantly, Cole's rapidly growing company. He thought if he could break them up, he could swoop in. Sharon told Evelyn everything. Hearing it, Evelyn felt sick to her stomach. The man she had once admired in college was nothing but a pathetic, scheming parasite. The thought that she had lost the love of her life because of him was unbearable. "Mom, please don't say his name again. I don't want to hear it," Evelyn said, closing her eyes in pain. There was a knock on the door. A nurse came in. "Ms. Hayes? There's a Ms. Riley here to see you. She says she's a friend." "Jessica?" Evelyn hesitated. "Let her in." Soon, Jessica walked in, dressed in a sharp business suit and carrying a fruit basket. "Evie, what happened? I heard you were in the hospital and came as fast as I could." Seeing her best friend, the dam of Evelyn's composure finally broke. She clung to Jessica and sobbed. Jessica comforted her, shooting a meaningful look at Sharon over Evelyn's shoulder. Sharon took the hint and left the room. Okay, stop crying. You're going to be fine," Jessica said, handing her a tissue. Evelyn recounted the events again through her tears. "Jessica, was I a complete idiot? How could I have ever trusted someone like Ryan?" Jessica sighed, a complicated expression crossing her face. "Evie, there's something I never told you." "What?" "The night of the reunion. I was there too." Evelyn pulled back, staring at her in disbelief. "You were there? Why didn't I see you?" "I left early," Jessica said, avoiding her eyes. "I saw Ryan pushing drinks on you all night, and I had a bad feeling. I tried to pull you away, but he kept insisting it was just old friends catching up. Later, when I saw you were really drunk, I went to the bathroom and I sent Cole a text." Evelyn's breath caught in her throat. "What did you send him?" "I told him you had too much to drink and that Ryan was taking you to a hotel room to rest. I told him he should probably go check on you." Jessica's voice got smaller and smaller. Evelyn felt like she'd been struck by lightning. She just stared at her best friend, numb. All this time, she thought Cole and her mother had found her on their own. But it was Jessica who sent him there. Why would you do that?" Evelyn's voice trembled. Jessica grabbed her hand, her face a picture of sincerity. "Evie, I was worried about you. Ryan seemed so slimy. I was afraid he'd take advantage of you. I thought if Cole showed up, he'd scare Ryan off and take you home. I never, ever thought it would end up like this." Her explanation was perfectly plausible, full of concern for a friend. But a strange, cold feeling began to creep into Evelyn's heart. She looked at Jessica's earnest face, and suddenly, it felt like she was looking at a stranger. If Jessica was so worried, why didn't she just pull her away? Why not call Cole directly instead of sending such a vague, suggestive text? A terrible thought began to form in the back of Evelyn's mind. Chapter 6. Evelyn stared at Jessica, her mind a whirlwind of confusion. She searched her friend's face for any sign of deception, but Jessica's expression was a flawless mask of concern and regret. Maybe she was overthinking it. Jessica was her best friend. She wouldn't hurt her. "Evie, please don't look at me like that. I honestly didn't mean for any of this to happen," Jessica said, her eyes welling up with tears. "If I had known it would make you two get a divorce, I would have never sent that text." Evelyn looked away, shaking her head wearily. "It's not your fault, Jessica. It's done. There's no point in talking about it." Even without Jessica's text, the fact remained. She had spent the night in a hotel room with Ryan. The outcome would have been the same. Seeing that Evelyn wasn't pressing the issue, Jessica visibly relaxed. She spent a few more minutes consoling her, trashing Ryan's character, then made an excuse about a meeting and left. As Evelyn watched her leave, the seed of doubt in her mind didn't disappear. It began to take root. A month later, thanks to the successful partnership with Apex Holdings, Forge Tech Solutions was the new rising star of the Chicago tech scene. New contracts were pouring in. The company was expanding so rapidly that Cole had to lease the adjacent office space and go on a hiring spree. He was busier than ever, too busy to think about anything but work. As promised in the divorce agreement, he had the condo and the car titles transferred to Evelyn's name. He hired an accountant to perform a full valuation of his company, calculated the principal of his father-in-law's initial loan plus a generous portion of the profits, and wired a lump sum of $5 million to Evelyn's account. With that, he felt he had finally completely severed his ties to the past. One day, just as he was wrapping up a video conference, Leo walked in with a sly grin. "Got something for you." He dropped a large manila envelope on Cole's desk. Cole opened it curiously. Inside was a stack of photographs and a detailed private investigator's report. The subject was Ryan Vance. Some photos showed him schmoozing with a portly, older businessman. Others showed him cornered in an alley, getting beaten up by several menacing-looking men. The report detailed Ryan's disastrous financial situation and his network of shady connections. The bastard declared bankruptcy 2 years ago. "He's drowning in gambling debts and loan shark IOUs," Leo explained. "He got close to Evelyn, hoping to marry into her family, so you'd pay off his debts. That whole reunion was a meticulously planned setup." Cole flipped through the documents, his face impassive. He'd suspected as much, but seeing the cold, hard proof still stirred something inside him. Not pity for Evelyn, but a sense of bitter irony for the 7 years he had wasted. "But this is the best part," Leo said, turning to the last page of the report and pointing to a name. "Guess who helped him get Evelyn drunk that night? And guess who was the real mastermind behind the whole plan?" Cole's eyes fell on the name. Jessica Riley. His blood ran cold. The report was clear. Jessica and Ryan had dated in college. He cheated on her, they broke up, but they had stayed in touch. This whole scheme was their joint creation. Ryan wanted Evelyn's money. But Jessica, what did Jessica want? Cole's mind flashed back through years of memories. Every time he and Evelyn had a fight, Jessica would show up, pretending to be a mediator, but always managing to stir the pot. He remembered how she would constantly tell Evelyn he was too busy with work, not romantic enough, subtly comparing him to other men. He remembered all the times Evelyn made extravagant, unnecessary purchases after being egged on by Jessica. The snake had been hiding in plain sight for years. A cold dread washed over him. Why would she do that? He muttered. Why else? Jealousy, Leo said with a shrug. I had someone ask around their old college friends. Turns out Jessica was always insanely jealous of Evelyn, for her looks, her family's money, and for having a boyfriend who adored her. So she decided to burn Evelyn's whole life to the ground. Cole's hand tightened around the papers, his knuckles turning white. He had thought his marriage was destroyed by Evelyn's foolishness and Ryan's greed. He never imagined that the most venomous poison had come from her best friend. "Cole, should we tell Evelyn?" Leo asked. Cole was silent. "Tell her. Tell her that the person she trusted most in the world had been plotting her downfall for years?" The cruelty of it was staggering. But if he didn't tell her, that venomous woman would just continue playing the role of the devoted best friend. "Send a copy of this report," Cole finally said. "Send it anonymously to her mother. Sharon Hayes, for all her faults, genuinely loved her daughter. She would know how to handle it." 3 days later, at the Hayes residence, Sharon stared at the contents of the anonymous manila envelope, her face pale with rage. Evelyn, coming out of her room, was startled by her mother's expression. "Mom, what's wrong?" Sharon didn't speak. She just threw the envelope on a coffee table. The photos and papers scattered across the surface. Evelyn picked one up. When she saw who was in the picture, she froze. It was Jessica and Ryan, standing outside a seedy motel, their arms around each other, looking very much like a couple. She grabbed the report. With every page she read, a deeper chill settled into her bones. Her hands began to shake uncontrollably. It was her. It was really her. Her best friend, the maid of honor at her wedding, had conspired with Ryan to set the ultimate trap. The reunion, the concern, the friendship, all of it was a lie. The room started to spin. She felt faint. "That witch." Sharon finally exploded. "I knew she was no good. Always hanging around you, calling you Evie this and Evie that, sweeter than honey. I can't believe she had such a poisonous heart. Why would she do this to me?" Evelyn sank onto the floor, tears blurring her vision. "What did I ever do to her?" "It's jealousy, pure and simple," Sharon declared. "I'm going to go find her right now. I'll tear her to pieces." Sharon started for the door, but Evelyn grabbed her arm. "Mom, don't," she said. Her voice was hoarse, but her eyes held a strange, new calmness. "Don't? You want to just let her get away with this?" "No," Evelyn said, slowly getting to her feet and wiping her tears. Her expression hardened into a cold, determined mask. "This isn't over. Mom, haven't you always wanted me to come work at the family business?" Sharon paused, surprised. "Well, yes." The Hayes family owned a modest but successful apparel company, with several retail stores and a small factory. Evelyn had studied fashion design in college, but after marrying Cole, she became a housewife and never got involved. "Starting tomorrow, I'm coming to work," Evelyn said, her voice steady. "And one more thing. I need you to set up a lunch for me with Jessica. Tell her I have a special gift for her." Chapter 7. The soft melody of a violin filled the air at one of Chicago's most exclusive downtown restaurants. Evelyn sat at a window table, dressed in a perfectly tailored black dress, her makeup flawless. She calmly stirred her coffee, the afternoon light catching the sharp, new angles of her shorter haircut. In just over a month, she had transformed. The grief was still there, but it was now encased in a shell of cold resolve. She was no longer a housewife. She was at the family's factory and offices from dawn till dusk, learning the business from the ground up with a ferocious appetite. She had channeled all her pain, all her rage, into a singular focus. When Jessica arrived, she had to do a double take. This was not the broken woman she had visited in the hospital. "Evie, sorry I'm late. The traffic on the loop was a nightmare," she said, flashing a bright smile as she sat down and tossed her Hermes bag onto the empty chair. "Wow, you look amazing. That dress is stunning on you." Evelyn offered a faint smile. "Thanks. I designed it myself." "You designed it?" Jessica's eyes widened in surprise, an expression quickly followed by a flicker of envy. "Yes," Evelyn said, taking a sip of coffee. "I'm launching my own clothing line. This is the first piece." "Oh my God, that's incredible. Evie, I'm so proud of you." Jessica gushed, clapping her hands together as if she'd just won the lottery herself. Hypocrite, Evelyn thought, her smile never wavering. "Jessica, I actually asked you here today because I want to thank you," Evelyn said, putting down her cup and looking her directly in the eye. "Thank me?" Jessica looked confused. "For what?" "For helping me see the world for what it really is," Evelyn said, her tone laden with hidden meaning. "If it weren't for you, I'd probably still be that same clueless wife. waiting for my husband to come home. A knot of anxiety tightened in Jessica's stomach, but she kept her smile firmly in place. What are you talking about? We're best friends. Of course. I'm here for you. Yes, best friends, Evelyn repeated, the smile on her lips turning icy. She reached into her handbag and pulled out a beautifully wrapped gift box, sliding it across the table. This is for you. Oh, you shouldn't have. What is it? Jessica asked, eagerly untying the ribbon. Inside, nestled on a bed of tissue paper, was a stack of photographs. The top one showed her and Ryan kissing passionately outside a motel. Jessica's smile froze on her face. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with terror. What is this? She stammered. What is it? Evelyn leaned back in her chair, observing her squirm. Jessica, my dear friend, what do you think it is? I don't know what you're talking about. Jessica frantically tried to stuff the photos back into the box. Oh, don't put them away so fast, Evelyn said, placing her hand over Jessica's and calmly fanning the photos out on the table like a deck of cards. This one, outside the motel. Look at the way Ryan's looking at you. So much love. This one in the bar. You look so happy. And this one, Evelyn picked up the last photo. This must be from college. You two made such a cute couple. Other diners were starting to notice the commotion, their curious glances turning into outright stares. Jessica's face burned with humiliation. Evelyn, are you crazy? What are you doing? She hissed, her voice a low, furious whisper. What am I doing? Evelyn's laugh was brittle, on the verge of tears. Jessica, that's my question for you. Why would you do this to me? I treated you like a sister. Anything I had, I shared with you. Why would you try to destroy me? I didn't. Jessica insisted. No. Evelyn's smile vanished, her eyes turning to steel. Don't tell me you haven't seen the investigator's report. Don't tell me you and Ryan didn't cook up this whole scheme together. Jessica finally panicked. She knew everything. It was Ryan. He forced me. She cried, trying to shift the blame. He's deep in debt with loan sharks. He threatened to ruin my reputation if I didn't help him. So you help him ruin my life instead? Evelyn's voice was like ice. I didn't mean for it to go so far. Evie, please believe me. Jessica started to sob, her go-to manipulation tactic. Enough. Evelyn slammed her hand on the table, the sharp crack silencing the nearby chatter. The entire restaurant was now watching. Stop it, Jessica. Just stop with the pathetic act. Evelyn stood, towering over her, her eyes blazing with contempt. You were jealous of me. I know. You were jealous of my family, my looks, and the fact that Cole loved me. So you decided to burn it all down. Did you really think destroying my happiness would bring you any of your own? Let me tell you something, Jessica. You failed. Evelyn picked up her glass of water and, without hesitation, dumped it over Jessica's head. Ah! Jessica shrieked, soaked and sputtering. The cold water mixed with her expensive makeup, leaving streaks down her face. That, Evelyn said, her voice shaking with rage, is for years of your backstabbing. She then picked up her glass of red wine. The crimson liquid splashed down the front of Jessica's white designer dress, staining it irrevocably. And that is for destroying my marriage. Evelyn grabbed a handful of cash from her purse and threw on the table. Lunch is on me. From now on, we're done. And you better pray I never see you again. She turned and walked away, head held high, through the sea of shocked faces. Behind her, she could hear Jessica's hysterical screams and curses. Evelyn didn't look back. The moment she stepped outside, she felt a massive weight lift from her shoulders. But the relief was fleeting. Vengeance hadn't made her feel whole. The emptiness was still there. She knew that no matter what she did to Jessica and Ryan, she could never get back what she had lost. She looked up at the overcast sky. A single, cold drop of rain landed on her cheek. She couldn't tell if it was rain or a tear. Chapter 8. The day after she publicly destroyed her best friend, life went on. Evelyn was back at the office, burying herself in a mountain of paperwork. The only difference was the way people looked at her now, with a newfound respect and a little bit of fear. The scene at the restaurant had briefly become a viral sensation on local social media before being scrubbed, but the damage to Jessica's reputation was done. Evelyn didn't care. The only thing she cared about now was building her brand and proving she could stand on her own. That afternoon, her father, Robert Hayes, walked into her office, his expression serious. "Evie, I need to see you for a minute." In his office, he handed her a thick binder. "This is the bid proposal for the new Eastgate development project. Take a look." Evelyn flipped through it, surprised. The Eastgate development was a massive, new commercial zone the city was opening up. Every major player in Chicago was vying for a piece of it. For a company the size of Hayes Apparel, bidding on it was like a guppy trying to swallow a whale. "Dad, are we really going to bid on this?" "Not by ourselves," Robert said, shaking his head. "Someone wants to partner with us." "Who?" "Apex Holdings." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. Apex Holdings? That was the company Cole was working with. "Why would Apex want to partner with us?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Apex is a giant in real estate and tech, but they have no experience in fashion retail. They see the value in our supply chain and our physical store footprint. Their plan is to build a massive mixed-use complex, shopping, dining, entertainment, and they want our brand as an anchor tenant and our expertise on the retail side, Robert explained, his voice filled with excitement. "This is the opportunity of a lifetime, Evie. If we could get in on this deal, our company could grow tenfold." Evelyn was silent. She knew her father was right. It was a golden opportunity. But partnering with Apex meant she would inevitably have to cross paths with Cole again. She wasn't ready. "Dad, I need to think about it." "Think about what?" Robert looked at her, confused. "An opportunity like this won't come again. Mr. Wallace from Apex has already invited me to dinner tomorrow to discuss the details. You'll be coming with me." His tone was final. Evelyn knew she had no choice. The next evening, in a private dining room at a high-end steakhouse, Evelyn and her father met Mr. Wallace. He was a sharp, charismatic man who greeted them warmly. "Robert, Miss Hayes, so glad you could make it." After some initial small talk, Mr. Wallace checked his watch. "I've also invited another key partner on this project. He should be here any minute." Just as he said that, the door opened. Cole Foster, dressed in a sharp, dark suit, walked in. Their eyes met. For a split second, the world seemed to stop. Cole was just as surprised to see her. He had been told the dinner was to discuss the next phase of the Eastgate project. No one had mentioned the Hayeses would be there. A flicker of shock crossed his face before it was replaced by a cool, professional calm. Evelyn, on the other hand, felt her heart hammer against her ribs. In just a few months, he had changed. He was leaner, more defined, and his eyes held a new intensity. He carried himself with a quiet confidence that was both foreign and incredibly attractive. "Ah, Cole, there you are," Mr. Wallace boomed, breaking the tense silence. "Come, let me make the introductions. This is Robert Hayes, CEO of Hayes Apparel, and this is his talented daughter and the company's future, Ms. Evelyn Hayes. And this," he said, turning to the Hayeses, "is the man I was telling you about. Our most important partner at Apex, the CEO of Forge Tech Solutions, Mr. Cole Foster. Cole's company is an integral part of the Eastgate development." Mr. Wallace was oblivious to the undercurrents in the room. Robert Hayes beamed, extending a hand to Cole. "Mr. Foster, a pleasure to finally meet you." Of course, he knew exactly who Cole was. He just never imagined his former son-in-law would climb so high, so fast. He felt a complicated mix of surprise, admiration, and a tinge of regret. Cole shook his hand politely. "Mr. Hayes." His gaze never lingered on Evelyn for more than a fraction of a second. He treated her as if she were a complete stranger. Evelyn felt a sharp sting of pain. She looked down, twisting the napkin in her lap. The dinner was an agonizing affair. The men talked business, their conversation filled with multi-million-dollar figures and ambitious timelines. Evelyn was a ghost at the table, a silent, decorative presence. Her eyes kept drifting to Cole. She watched as Mr. Wallace praised his ingenuity, as her own father raised his glass to him again and again, his posture almost deferential. The man who had once been made to feel small in her family's presence was now someone they all looked up to, and she was no longer a part of his world. The chasm between them felt immense. "Ms. Hayes, you've barely touched your food," Mr. Wallace noted. "Is everything to your liking?" Evelyn forced a smile. "Yes, everything is wonderful. Evie's been having some stomach issues lately." She has to be careful. Robert smoothly covered for her. Cole's hand paused as he was reaching for his water glass, but he said nothing. When the dinner finally ended, Robert and Mr. Wallace had another meeting to attend, so they told Evelyn to catch a cab home. She stepped out of the restaurant into a light, drizzling rain. The street was busy, and she couldn't find a single available cab. Suddenly, a black Audi A8 pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, revealing Cole's angular profile. "Get in. I'll give you a ride." His voice was flat, devoid of any emotion. Chapter 9. The fine mist of rain drifted into the car, carrying a damp chill. Evelyn hesitated for a moment before opening the door and sliding into the passenger seat. The silence inside was heavy, broken only by the rhythmic swish of the windshield wipers. Cole focused on the road, his hands resting lightly on the steering wheel. Evelyn sat rigidly, her own hands clenched in her lap, her heart beating a frantic rhythm against her ribs. This was the first time they had been alone since the divorce. There were a million things she wanted to say. "I am sorry. I know everything about what Jessica and Ryan did. Are you okay?" But the words were trapped in her throat. The air was thick with unspoken history. How have you been?" She finally managed, her voice barely a whisper. "Fine," Cole replied, his answer clipped and final. Her heart sank. He wouldn't even grant her a full sentence. About Jessica and Ryan. "I know what they did," she tried again. Cole's expression didn't change. He just grunted in acknowledgement. "The report. You were the one who sent it to my mom, weren't you?" "Thank you." "Don't thank me," he said, finally looking at her for a split second. "I just thought you deserved to know the truth." His tone was all business, as if discussing a line item in a budget. Evelyn felt a coldness spread through her chest. She had to be a fool. What was she hoping for? Sympathy? An olive branch? They were divorced. It was over. "You don't have to take me all the way home," she said abruptly. "You can just drop me at the next corner." Cole glanced at her, but didn't ask why. He pulled over at the intersection as requested. Evelyn unbuckled her seatbelt. Before she got out, she turned and looked at him, really looked at him, for a long moment. "Cole," she began, her voice thick with emotion, Can we at least be friends?" Cole's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He was silent for what felt like an eternity before he slowly shook his head. "We can't be friends, Evelyn. For us, it was either husband and wife or strangers. And now," he said, his voice flat, "we're strangers." Without another look, he accelerated, the black Audi melting into the rainy night. Evelyn stood on the sidewalk, the cold rain soaking her hair and clothes, but she didn't feel it. Tears streamed down her face, indistinguishable from the rain. Strangers. He said they were strangers. 7 years of love, of life, of history, all erased and reduced to a single devastating word. The Eastgate project was officially greenlit, and Hayes Apparel was a confirmed partner. This meant that, professionally, Evelyn and Cole's lives were now intertwined. For Evelyn, it was a special kind of torture. She could see him, but only from a distance, across a boardroom table. She watched him command meetings, solve complex problems with an unnerving calm, and earn the respect of everyone he worked with. He was moving further and further away from her, and with every step he took, her love for him deepened into a painful ache. Regret became her constant companion. If only she hadn't gone to that reunion. If only she had seen Jessica for who she really was. If only, but there were no if-onlys. One night, after a marathon planning session that stretched late into the evening, the project team was finally packing up. Just as Evelyn was about to leave, Cole called out to her. "Ms. Hayes, I have a few new thoughts on the location for your flagship store. Do you have a minute to discuss it privately?" It was the same detached, professional tone, but it made her heart leap. Of course. They went to his temporary office on site. He poured her a glass of water and spread a large floor plan across his desk. "I've been analyzing your brand's target demographic, and I believe moving your flagship store to this location would be far more advantageous," he said, pointing to a prime corner spot on the map. "It has the highest foot traffic, and you'll be surrounded by top-tier international brands, which will elevate your own brand's prestige." Evelyn stared at the map, but her mind wasn't on store placement. This was the most he had spoken to her since the divorce, even if it was just about work. Why are you being so nice to me?" The question slipped out, before she could stop it. Cole's hand, which had been tracing a path on the map, paused. He looked up, his expression unreadable. "I'm not being nice to you," he said slowly. "I'm being responsible to the project. Maximizing the value of each partner brand ensures the success of the entire development. That benefits me, Apex, and your company." His explanation was flawless, hermetically sealing off any personal connection between them. Evelyn felt that familiar sting in her heart. She looked down at her shoes. "Cole, I know I made so many mistakes. I know I broke your heart. And I am so sorry. Can you please give me another chance?" Her voice trembled as she finally said the words she'd been holding back for months. She loved him. She wanted him back. Cole looked at her, his jaw tight. The office was silent, the city lights twinkling outside the window, casting his face in shadow. After a long time, he let out a heavy sigh. "Evelyn, when a mirror shatters, you can't put it back together. Even if you glue the pieces, the cracks will always be there. There's no going back for us." His voice was soft, but his words hit her with the force of a physical blow. Is it because you met someone else?" she asked, her eyes blurred with tears. Cole didn't answer. He just turned and looked out the window. His silence was her answer. He had moved on. He had a new life, and she was still stuck in the wreckage of their past. Her heart felt like it was being torn in two. "I understand," she said, forcing herself to stand. She wiped her eyes and managed a smile that was more painful than a grimace. "My apologies for bothering you, Mr. Foster." She turned and stumbled out of his office. Behind her, Cole remained at the window, perfectly still. But the hand he rested on the windowsill was clenched into a white-knuckled fist. Chapter 10. Leaving Cole's office, Evelyn felt like the ground had fallen away beneath her. His words, his silence, they had extinguished her last glimmer of hope. He had someone else. The knowledge was a physical pain, a weight that made it hard to breathe. She drove home in a daze, a ghost behind the wheel. When Sharon saw her pale, vacant expression, she was alarmed. "Evie, what's wrong? Did something happen at work?" Evelyn didn't reply. She walked straight to her room and shut the door, collapsing onto the bed. She buried her face in a pillow, and the grief she had been suppressing for months erupted in a storm of raw, agonizing sobs. Why? Why did she only realize how much she loved him after she had lost him? Why, when she was finally ready to fight for him, was he already gone? Was this karma? Was this her punishment for taking his love for granted? When the tears finally ran out, she dragged herself to the mirror and stared at her reflection. The swollen eyes, the tear-streaked face. She looked pathetic. And for what? Cole wouldn't see this. He wouldn't care. He was happy with someone new. All she was doing was torturing herself. No, no more. A new resolve hardened in her eyes. Even if she couldn't have him back, she would not let him see her like this. She would build a life for herself. She would show him, and herself, that she could be happy without him. Happier, even. From that day on, Evelyn changed. She packed away her grief and poured every ounce of her energy into her work. She became relentless. She traveled, she researched, she sketched, she fought for better materials and smarter designs. She pulled all-nighters, revising her collection dozens of times, perfecting every last detail. On the grand opening night of the Eastgate Commercial Complex, her hard work paid off. The launch of her new brand, Evelyn, was the main event. The gala was a glittering affair filled with Chicago's elite. Evelyn, wearing a stunning silver gown of her own design, took the stage as the brand's founder and creative director. In the spotlight, she was radiant, exuding a confidence that was magnetic. She spoke eloquently about her design philosophy and her vision for the future. The applause was thunderous. In the crowd, Cole watched her, a storm of emotions churning inside him. The woman on that stage, so poised and brilliant, was a world away from the girl he had married. She had finally come into her own. He was proud of her, and at the same time, he felt a profound sense of loss. During the reception that followed, Evelyn was the center of attention. She navigated the crowd with an easy grace, a champagne flute in hand, accepting congratulations and networking with potential partners. "Ms. Hayes, a huge fan of your work. I'm Ben Carter from the Carlyle Group. Incredible collection, Ms. Hayes. Here's my card, we must talk." She smiled and thanked them, her poise unwavering. Suddenly, an unwelcome figure appeared, shattering the festive atmosphere. Ryan Vance. He was wearing a cheap, ill-fitting suit, his hair slicked back with too much gel. He looked haggard, a desperate glint in his eyes, as he pushed his way through the crowd to her. "Evie, long time no see," he said, his tone slick with false charm. Evelyn's smile vanished. "I don't know you." The people nearby fell silent, their curiosity piqued. Ryan's face fell, but he pressed on. "Evie, look, I know I messed up, but I was manipulated by that witch Jessica. She told me if I could get with you, your father would invest in my business. I was desperate." "Get out," Evelyn said, her voice dangerously low. "Evie, please give me another chance. I've lost everything. The loan sharks are after me. You've always been so kind-hearted. Just help me out." He reached out to grab her arm. Evelyn recoiled in disgust. "Security!" From across the room, Cole saw the confrontation. His face darkened, and he subtly signaled a nearby guard. 2 security officers were on Ryan in an instant, grabbing him by the arms. "What are you doing? Let go of me!" Ryan struggled, his voice rising to a pathetic shout. "Evelyn, you cold-hearted bitch. You should be thanking me. If it weren't for me, you never would have seen Cole for the phony he is. He's just a gold digger who used you for your family's money." A shocked murmur went through the crowd. Evelyn's face went white. Cole strode through the parting crowd and stood in front of Evelyn, shielding her. He stared down at the struggling, ranting Ryan, his eyes filled with a murderous calm. "Get him out of here," he said quietly. The authority in his voice was absolute. The guards wasted no time in dragging Ryan away, his curses echoing behind him. The crisis was over. Cole turned to Evelyn, his expression softening slightly. "Are you okay?" She just shook her head, unable to speak. She wanted to thank him, but her throat was tight with 1,000 unsaid things. Just then, a young woman in a simple white dress, with a sweet, gentle face, walked up and slid her arm through Cole's. "Cole, is everything all right?" she asked, her voice soft and melodious. Evelyn's blood ran cold. It was her, the woman she had seen getting into Cole's car that day. His new life. The woman seemed to notice Evelyn's stare. She offered a polite, distant smile. Then she stood on her toes and pressed a soft, deliberate kiss to Cole's cheek. It was a kiss that staked a claim. Evelyn felt her heart, which she had so carefully been piecing back together, shatter into a million irreparable pieces. End of adapted text.